In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey everyone, how you doing today? You have found Surviving Together on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. A little different than our normal Saturday afternoon. I don't know what I'm pulling on, but um, hang on, guys. Trying to get this a little closer, and I got cords that are just messed up. Anyway, you found Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journeys, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. I am sorry that I was not here on a regular scheduled day. I have a bug infestation on the outside of my windows, but for some reason they are finding their way in. So if I go eek and I cut off, it's because I have some bugs that are flying in my office window and I have to catch them. They're stink bugs. They're awful. I hate them. I have been dealing with them all summer, but because it's got cooler nights, they are finding their way in. And I was hoping to have the condo association come and spray yesterday, or at least early today, but it looks like it's going to be tomorrow. So between them and for some reason I've got box elder bugs now. I don't know if this is their time of year to reproduce, but I've got a bazillion of those in the morning as well. They're not finding their way in, but it's gross on the outside. I can't enjoy my porch. And so that is all going to get sprayed hopefully tomorrow. I can't tell you the amount of stink bugs that I have killed in the last couple of days. And my son, who will basically touch any bug there is, except for bees, will not touch stink bugs. He won't even take the wadded up tissues and toss them in the toilet for me. He will not get anywhere near them. So, and they do stink. They've got this particular scent. It's not putrid, but it's not pleasant. So I try not to crush them. Uh, so unfortunately, they get a watery death. So I, I leave them if they're outside, but when they come into my office, that's where I draw the line. So I can see that there's a couple that are on my window, and as long as they stay on my window, I will kill them afterwards. But if they fly they're good at flying. But if they fly into the office proper, then I might have to stop the show. Sorry, guys. Let's see. We have Body Illusion stop by. I know you've got a show, and I'm sorry for conflicting with anybody today. I just I could not. You would not believe trying to work at my desk yesterday was just absolutely miserable. I was killing bugs left and right. Mustang Mike dropped by, said have a great show. Body says, all my love and support. Have a great show. Crystal is here, attempting to stay awake and not fall asleep. Oh, you've been up since 1. I am so sorry. Yeah, I meant to get a lot more done today than I did, but I could not sleep with a dang last night. And then I realized I forgot to change my patch on time. So I just kept having weird, funky dreams and waking up like every other hour. Finally, at 6, when the cats wanted to be fed, I fed them and I finally fell asleep for a while. So I didn't wake up until darn near noon. And I definitely needed it. Plus, my son was out late last night with his motorcycle, and I worry. I know at some point he's gonna move out, and I'm not gonna know where he is or what he's doing, but as long as he's at least here when I know that he's out and stuff, I still worry, so I wanted to make sure that he got home okay. So today, guys, we're gonna be, doing some trauma talk. I'm gonna be reading some Reddit questions and responding to those, because we're on a different day, I don't know, people may show up throughout, they may not. Uh, so you may just hear me talking. This may just be like a pre-record, just fine as well. Uh, I like having the input for doing this, but this is what I had planned yesterday, and so I didn't want to um, go through a whole new research subject today since I had got off late. Oh my God, your alarm went off at the wrong time, Crystal. Oh, that sucks. That absolutely bites. Remember when I was in school and my alarm would go off on like a Saturday or something, and I'd get up and get dressed, take a shower, come down for breakfast and be like, my mom's like, "Oh, you're up early for a Saturday." And I'm like, "What?" It's Saturday. Oh, I hated that. Or you take a nap and you wake up and it's like 9 o'clock and 8 o'clock or something, and you think you're late for the next day and it's still the evening. It's so disorienting. Um, I did that a ton of times when I was in school or college and was like, oh crap, I'm late for my class. Only to realize, no, it's night and now I'm awake and now I can't sleep. Then trudge to class the next morning on not much sleep. So, Crystal, if you make it, you make it. If you don't, you can watch on replay. Guys, if you haven't hit that like button, I've been hearing that they want you to hit the like the more like button hits you get in the beginning of the show, like in the first 10 minutes or something, the more the algorithm pushes you out versus if everything's at the end, which is weird and sucks because how do you know if you like the video or don't like it unless you watch it, right? So if you're inclined, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you hit the all bell for notifications so you'll get notification whenever I'm on, even when I change times like today. So let's jump in. Some trauma talk. So these are Reddit questions that were on the CPTSD subreddit. And the first one that I pulled out says, it was submitted by somebody named Dig Chop Flip. Said advice on parents' lack of accountability. Basically, as the title suggests, how do you deal with and process my parents' lack of accountability for my childhood? Well, I think, the biggest thing, and this is something that I had to deal with personally. My parents aren't big on looking back, they're not therapy people. So I eventually just had to come to an acceptance that they were not going to be part of my healing journey in terms of talking to them and getting their input on things. Not everybody's going to. Some people are not going to take accountability. Some people just aren't going to want to even talk about it, don't see the sense in dredging up old wounds or dredging up the past. And you'll eventually find a peace with it. And I think that some people may call it forgiveness. Um, I looked at it more as I was releasing my resentment, my anger towards them in regards to things that they didn't do or that they did do while I was growing up. You can't control what somebody else is going to do or not do. The only thing you can control is yourself. And so your healing journey can still continue to move forward, even if you don't get that type of closure that you really want with somebody from your past, but that you can release at least any negative feelings that you're feeling towards them. If you're not feeding that energy, you've got it freed up to go to something else and to focus on yourself and your healing journey. So, the best thing that I could say in regards to that is to accept that this is not something that they're going to do. You can't change them, you can't control how they're going to act, and focus on yourself. So that one hit home. It's the reason I pulled that particular one out. Okay, this next one was submitted by Rough Rip 1005, and the title is What's the Point? Because sometimes I feel like I can't see the point of going to therapy. I like it. I love my therapist and I need him and the therapy, and I always feel better afterwards. However, in between sessions are often terrible, crying, bad mood, spiraling. My therapist sets strict boundaries so I can't text him or ask for a quick check in anymore, and that left me feeling alone and not wanted, somewhat defeated. I can reach out to schedule a new session if needed, but for everything else, I need to call 988. So I'm not sure what country this person is from. Here's the question. What's the point of having a therapist if I can't reach out to him? Is it me? I understand the point of therapy is to not be in therapy. And I know I have a transference with attachment and abandonment issues. I feel like I have a lot of tools to co op and manage, but at the same time, I want him, quote unquote. I feel so confused. I have so much that's happened to me. However, I can't speak of it because of shame, guilt, and fear of going there again. Any help suggestions are well appreciated. Well, there's a lot going on with this in here, right? Therapy can be extremely helpful for some people. And especially if you have abandonment or attachment issues, that person is like your lifeline, especially as this reader is stating that they feel better when they go to therapy. They sounds like they're getting a lot out of it. But it also sounds to me, and I don't know what types of tools that you have to manage. So I'm stabbing in the dark a little bit here, but it sounds like you need more of a support system, that your immediate person who could support you is your therapist. And I could certainly understand where if you used to be able to reach out in emergency times and then you couldn't, that would feel like you're being abandoned, like you're doing something wrong. My guess is, and it's only a guess, but if your therapist had to set strict boundaries about texting him or, trying to get a quick session in between, that you might have been doing it quite often. And again, that leads me to believe that you need to expand your support system. And it's hard if you don't have family that you can rely on, if they don't understand what you're going through, if they don't understand how to respond to you, if your friend circle is, fairly small and the same types of things go on with them, they just don't know what to say. I encourage you to reach out to people like us, online support systems. There is a lot of resources out there. You can find in my um, description, I've got some resources, and I think each of them has a way to contact people to have online support systems. Some of them are group therapy type sessions, some are one on one, some are just basically a social circle. Um, but definitely, it sounds like you need a bigger support system, other people that you can talk to in between um, these official therapy sessions. And I do encourage the online, particularly if you're isolated, if you don't feel comfortable in social situations. It might be difficult to expand your in-person network. You may not, feel comfortable doing that. But there's a lot of people out here who are willing to connect with you and who understand what you're going through. And sometimes you just need a sympathetic ear and somebody to listen to you, somebody who gets it. And they might have, a different set of tools that they can relay to you that you can try that will be helpful in dealing with it um, when you can't reach somebody. Exactly, Crystal. She says, "Is there a way to talk to the therapist about this as it's an issue that needs to be dealt with? Sometimes you need to find multiple support systems for in between. How often are the sessions? Maybe the sessions need to be brought closer together." And those are all good suggestions. Like I said, I think you're right on the money with finding multiple support people to reach out to in between. Possibly you can move your sessions closer together. There may be a reason, maybe she's as close as she can in terms of the therapist's availability or cost, if you're paying out of pocket or if it's a government program, they may only allow a certain amount. So if that's not an option, definitely building a more significant support system. Okay. Here's the next one was by Motor Zombie 9920. Why am I dissociating every time? Their question. They start depending on the environment. I have a tendency to dissociate because I am cautious. I fear criticism and feeling less, any kind of diminishing experience. I am taking everything on a personal level. It's hard for me to participate with distance. We're either close or we're distant. I can't hold people at a healthy distance because I feel defenseless. So if I'm attacked, and it can be even a tiny gesture, I don't have the courage to react. I don't know if it's only courage I am lacking. I am reading Adler, and I am worried that I couldn't develop social interest throughout my early life. So I'm always self centered and isolated, worried about if I am less than or more than because I have an inferiority complex. During those kind of social encounters, my mind goes blank, frozen, like I've got nothing to give. I feel out of place, but I can't feel like this wherever I go. In the end, it makes me extremely ashamed because of myself. I'm sorry. In the end, it makes me extremely ashamed of myself because of the emptiness I feel during those encounters and the impression I left on people. And that's why I'm always wanting to escape. Why? Why? And there was a response to this, which um, I think was pretty good. So I'm going to read that response before I respond to anything. And I don't know this Adler. I wasn't able to pull up anything, so I'm not sure what particular um, book that this person is reading. Uh, but somebody responded, "I'm sorry you're going through this. It sounds like the freeze response in CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Peter Walker," which is a book that is out there. Dealing with abuse is hard. Sometimes it helps to just accept that we can't hold ourselves to the standards of people who don't have CPTSD. Like oranges can't make apple juice, and that's okay. Giving myself grace for times when my mind goes blank has helped me calm down in the moment, not to get so overwhelmed with anxiety and shame, and be able to be more present instead of going blank. We didn't choose this. We're trying to heal from it, and it makes us strong. I hope you remember that you're courageous because of that. And I thought that that was a really good response. It hit a lot of points that I want to reiterate. It sounds like this person, um, as the responder said, gets stuck in freeze mode when they're getting overwhelmed by their social situation, right? And this is very common in people who have CPTSD, feeling isolated, it's safe, right? I have social anxiety, um, not to the degree this person has, but like my book launch, I'm worried about this. It's a tremendous opportunity for me to be able to go out and connect with other women. Um, but it is so important to me. And there's so many people that are going to be there who are so successful. Yeah, I'm intimidated and my social anxiety is kicking up, and I still got a month to go. So I 100% understand this. I went to a book reading during the summer, and I had hoped to connect with a lot of people there, but I definitely froze. I didn't know how to approach people. I felt like I had just totally lost my ability to mingle and strike up conversations and connect with people who were there for the same reasons that I was. So I 100% get this. And it's not a lack of courage, it's a trauma effect. You're overwhelmed, your nervous system is on high alert, and it's your body's way of protecting yourself. So a few things in regards to this. I don't know how well this person is dealing when they're not in social situations, if they're able to deal with their regular life that's not social situations. So we'll just focus on the social aspect of it. First off, give yourself grace. Just because you can't act in social situations like everybody else doesn't mean there's that you have a lack of courage. You have an issue to overcome. You're not the same person who you used to be. If this is something that's changed from before, you used to be able to mingle and now you can't. So, first off, just accept where you are. And then it's a matter of figuring out what kind of social situations am I comfortable with? And knowing where that boundary is, take the step into the situations that you are comfortable with. Certainly learn some ways to calm your nervous system in the moment. If you don't have those types of tools, if you do, great, rely on them when you're in the moment. If you start to get overwhelmed, take yourself to the bathroom, do some breathing exercises, do some grounding techniques, hear, feel, sense. Those are excellent ways to be able to calm yourself, but take it as baby steps. And when you notice that your comfort level has totally increased and you're feeling good with whatever that minimal social contact is, take it to the next step. And if that's only one person, it's one person. And the next time, try engaging with two people. And then maybe it's a small gathering of people for coffee. And as you feel comfortable with each of those situations, you can gradually move your boundary out in terms of what types of social situations you're willing to be in. If there's a situation that you really need to go to, like it's a mandated job thing or whatever, you know there's going to be a ton of people. Is there a person there who you feel comfortable with, who maybe you can rely on in terms of navigating that social situation? Having somebody who you feel comfortable with can be your basically your ground, and they may notice before you do that your social anxiety is starting to get to you. And again, just take a break. You're not going to be good at it right away. And taking it in small doses, accepting that it is a process, and just moving forward. And every one of them may not be successful. You may take a step back. Healing isn't linear. Doing something like this is not going to be linear either. Georgia said recommends slow breathing. Yes, absolutely. You can always excuse yourself to the bathroom, right? Crystal says a lot of it's to figure out what your triggers are and work on those issues. The main thing is that helps is figuring out those triggers. That way you can work towards changing your triggers. Um, absolutely. And s- triggers in social situations can be just the number of people in general. It can be the type of gathering that it is. Are these people you're all expected to talk to? Are they, work companions? Are they people who you don't feel you have a lot in common with? Um, you know, what is the dynamic of a particular situation that bothers you? And so figuring those things out, and like I said, if it's not mandated, my mic's going. There we go. We were buffering for a little bit. Um, so take it slow. Give yourself grace, and you will move forward. Judge says, I have a mandated job thing to go to tomorrow for hopefully my new job. I have to get up at 4 to drive across the country to get there. Oh my goodness. Well, best of luck to you. We certainly hope that you are that you get this job. All right, we'll be praying for you. We're definitely rooting for you. Um, Georgia is worried about being late, that's a huge trigger for her. So I understand then that you're getting up at 4 a.m., right? Uh, Look at your Google Maps and see how long it's supposed to take you. And if it's something brand new like that, I always add like 30 minutes to a half an hour to that time. 30 minutes to half an hour. Look, listen to me today. 30 minutes to an hour. And if I'm super, super early, then it gives me time to grab a coffee, you know, park, walk to where I'm going. This is how I am at the airport because I am scared to death of missing my flights. And so I am always there super duper early. I find where my gate is. I don't stop and get coffee first. I need to know exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then I will go take care of getting coffee or snacks or a newspaper or whatever else it is. But I've got to know like where I'm going and that my flight is up on that board and I'm in the right place. So I totally understand being late being a trigger. That is my one instance that being late is a huge trigger. Yeah, so when we're on Wednesday, I certainly hope that you will have good news. So yeah, Wednesday, Deaudrey, I'm rooting for you. I'm praying for you. We'll have a double celebration, right? We'll celebrate the day of my birth and we'll celebrate your new job. There, I said it, and now I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my gut. So, got a good feeling about this for you, DeAudrey. Got a good feeling about this. All right. Yeah. Side note, I last year my son forgot my birthday because I didn't mention it. Nobody else did, right? So, and it's not a big deal. And it's last minute. It's go to the dollar store. What can we find? Whatever. I don't need more candles. I don't need bath salts. I don't need anything pretty much that you could find at the dollar store. So I told my son today, I said, you know what I want most for my birthday? I said, I want time. I want time with you. So I asked him to carve out 2 to 3 hours between my birthday and like next Sunday that we could spend together, whether that's just doing stuff around the house or grabbing coffee or lunch or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just want to spend time with them. Honestly, part of the time, I'm probably going to put him to work because I have a sink that needs to get fixed that we've been putting off. And I think I know what the problem is, and my hands aren't strong enough to do it. So, yeah, probably going to make him work for it a little bit, but then I'll take him out to lunch. Time is the best gift, isn't it? It goes so fast. Um, and I know that maybe I've got another year of him being here, maybe less than that. I wouldn't be surprised if by next spring he says he's moving out and needs to have his own place, which is fine. I mean, I don't take it personally, but it's going to be a big change. So, yeah, of course, I want to soak up as much time as I can with him between now and the time that that comes. All right. Let's see. The next one that I pulled out is by illustrious chef 8246. And the question is, how do you deal with the stress? I was triggered yesterday and have been trying to get my body out of fight or flight since then. I can't stop crying. I can't stop thinking about yesterday's events and having flashbacks of what it reminds me of. I'm aware of what's going on, but nothing I do seems to be helping. My left eye has started twitching, so I know the stress is getting to me. Well, I can only speak in general because I don't know what you've tried already, since you say nothing seems to be helping. However, first and foremost, you have to regulate your emotions, right? We've got to get you out of that fight or flight mode. And there are so many different ways that you can go about this. Uh, As you guys know, breathing exercises are one of my go tos. It is one of the quickest ways to calm your nervous system. There are things to do, such as journaling, um, trauma release exercises, TREs. And just be careful if you're going to look those up, because I've noticed a lot of people who do yoga or meditation are kind of adding that to their repertoire. And they may not really understand all of it. I think they may be taking it just from another video because I notice just little things that are different than if you're taking it from a site where it's somebody who has been formally trained in trauma release exercises. Uh, there's things like tapping exercises, which you can find on the internet as well. It's a matter of you're tapping different pressure points in a specific pattern. Some people also have sayings that they say as they're tapping. Um, this was going to be one of my journaling, right? Either whether it's an official journal or Crystal says writing it down is also so helpful in getting everything out that is going on the inside. Precisely. Just, what was it about yesterday that triggered you? If you don't want to write out specifically what it reminds you of, because that's retriggering in and of itself, you can just state that, this is reminding me of the past, and take a body scan. What's going on inside your mind? What is going on inside your head? And yeah, write all of that out and just get it out. The crying is a way of your body, trying to release that energy, trying to release that trauma. Uh, Going for walks, doing some form of exercise, quick. Crystal, you and I are on the same page today. Crystal says going for a walk, being out in nature. Absolutely. Quick exercises, things like dancing or doing jumping jacks, or just standing still, and then, shaking out your body, shaking out your arms, shaking out your legs, shake your head. These quick movements can also help readjust our nervous system. Um, if there are any hobbies that you like to do, whether it's art or gardening or something that you find peaceful, I'd encourage you to try doing that. Um, I know that I've got several lives where we've dealt with different grounding techniques in general, and you can look those up. I know we did one that was specifically all on breathing techniques. So these are all different ways that you can help to bring your nervous system back in line. There are also different ways to push on your vagus nerve, which is the nerve that regulates our nervous system, which brings it from sympathetic to parasympathetic, and calming it down, or parasympathetic to sympathetic. And I've seen some where they're pushing on the vagus nerve from behind the ear. Some are doing it at the back of the neck. So I am not an expert in that, but I do know that that is another um, exercise that you can do, that you could look up and find out kind of how that goes. The ear one I covered once, and it actually is pretty good. I do it when I get migraines. Actually, it really helps to bring my migraines, because when I get migraines, my anxiety skyrockets because of the pain, and pushing on my vagus nerve does really help um, calm calm the migraine, bringing it from just like catastrophic down to something where, okay, I can think now. I can think that I've got to take my medication, or this is on its way down, or uh, I need to change my ice pack. Is when my migraine is at top level, it's just all encompassing, and you just can't even think. And Crystal says, "Let those tears flow." Absolutely. And there there does come a time where, if you're crying for days and days and days, you're obviously stuck. And I congratulate you, and I'm proud of this person for recognizing that they're stuck in fight or flight, that they've been going on with the same thing, and that they need different tools because the ones that they have aren't working. And I do want to say that just because the tools that you're using right now are not helping doesn't mean they're not going to help next time. It's a weird thing. There are tools that work one time and they don't work for you the next, but they might work for you the time after. So keep them in your toolbox. Don't reject them outright. If you have a tool and you have used multiple times and you found it doesn't work, yeah, sure, disregard it, toss it out of your toolbox. and be like, that one just doesn't work for me, and that's okay. But I really want to, enforce that just because what you're doing right now doesn't mean that your tools no longer work. They're just not working at this particular time for this particular instance. And the fact that you notice that you've got twitching with the stress, this is really common. Leg spasms or leg twitches, eye twitches, um, even some people will have facial tics. Our stress can manifest physically. And I know some people think, oh, it's all in your mind. It can't happen. No, it absolutely can. And that trauma that is stuck in our body needs to be released. So if you are walking, I encourage you to find another form of exercise, maybe swimming or just dancing in your kitchen or some other form of movement might work for you this time. Okay. I knew I was going to need my water today because of all this talking. I'm not good at putting myself off camera when I drink or whatever, so that's why I still have my big mic instead of having like a mic that's attached here because I know you'd hear me swallow all the time. Excuse me. All right. Here's the next one. And this was submitted by Purple Ranger 7924. It says, how are you supposed to tend to your inner child when the present adult is not okay? And I thought that this was a really interesting question. They say sometimes I think the inner child thing is stupid. So many mental health professionals assume that just because we are adult now, we can tend to our inner child. My present adult needs healing. My present adult's needs are unmet and I am running on fumes. There should be more focus put on the present adult because they matter. They are priority. What I wanted to say to this person is they're absolutely correct in that you need to be in a good place in order to parent and try and heal your inner child. If you're stuck in fight or flight, if you're absolutely running on fumes, you have nothing to give, you do need to work on your present day self. I think that in order to do the best inner child work, you do need to be in a decent place. With that being said, you don't need to be in a perfect place. You don't need to be like, I can make it through every day just fine. Because by doing that inner child work, it does affect us in the present day. It affects our present adult by helping to heal that inner child. So you don't need to be in a totally perfect place in order to do the inner child work, but you do need to be in at least a somewhat stable position. So I agree with this person to the extent that if you're running on fumes, as they say, if you are just absolutely, worn out and you can't even make it through your current day, and that's challenging enough, absolutely work on getting to a better place, work on being more stable in the present day, and then go to do the inner child work. If somebody is encouraging you to do that inner child work and yet you're not being able to function in current day, then that's a conversation you need to have with that therapist. If that's the person who's recommending it to you and saying, listen, I need tools to deal with myself as I am sitting in this chair here now before I can go back and deal with my inner child and have that conversation with your therapist. Um, I think that's extremely important because they need to know where you are. And if they keep pushing it, then it may be time to change therapists to find somebody who's going to understand you better and that you guys can be on the same page. We have another question here about therapists now that I'm talking about it. So I'm going to skip over one and go to this one. Because how long should I give a new therapist before saying it's not a good fit? And this is something that we've talked about before, right? That it's important to find the right therapist for you. It doesn't mean that person is not a good therapist. They're just not the best therapist for you. You're not jiving with them. You're not on the same page in terms of goals and how to get there. Um, it's very important for you to be able to feel comfortable with your therapist. How long should you give it? Well, let's see what this person has to say, what they've been through, and then we can talk a little bit more. Like the title says, I'm trying to figure out how many sessions is reasonable to determine if a therapist is a good fit. For reference, I've had 3 sessions with them so far. I'm just feeling underwhelmed by our sessions. I don't feel like we make any real progress on things I need to work on. For reference, I'm seeing them for depression, anxiety, CPTSD, religious trauma, ADHD, autism, life transition from my recent ADHD and autism diagnosis. I'm also hoping to get some supports and tools to help me maintain my current living environment since I'm living in an environment that caused my CPTSD. I know this isn't ideal, and if I had any choice, I wouldn't be living in the traumatized place. A lot of the sessions have been more about me rambling, and I don't feel like we're working on things, just laying it all out. I understand needing a baseline, but I don't remember it taking 3 sessions for a baseline. Side note, my therapist feels more like a life coach so far. I've had therapists in the past that dove straight in, and we were making good progress by the 3rd session. This therapist seems to prefer person-centered therapy, which I've never done before. The modalities that have helped are DBT, IFS, mindfulness, EMDR, and there's probably a couple more. The current therapist doesn't use any of them. However, when we chatted, it sounded like their style could help. Most of the therapists that I think would be a good fit either have telehealth appointments only or have wait lists. I've already stopped seeing a different therapist who handed out packets every week. Not my style either. Because of the current situation, I really need a therapist, and I've been going with the idea that something is better than nothing. But my depression is escalating faster than we can address it in therapy. The ideal solution is that I find a different living situation, but there are several obstacles to get that going. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Well, I think the first thing in your situation, let's address the bigger question. How long should you give it? There's no timeline, there's no timeline. It really depends on your goals. Do you feel comfortable with this person? You said that this person sounds more like a life coach. So to me, your transition, you listed many things that you're going to the therapist for, and one of them being life transition from my recent ADHD and autism diagnosis, and also help, um, tools to support you because you're still living in the environment that caused your CPTSD. So to me, it seems like this person may be a good fit for you for those particular issues. But you're saying your depression is worsening. So you may have different focuses in terms of the things that need to get worked on first. So if you're comfortable in general with this person, I would encourage you to write down your goals. What is most important to you? What is the biggest issue that you need to address? And if there are competing biggest issues, that's okay too. But try and list them in order of importance. bring that into your therapist and then talk to your therapist about your goals and talk to your therapist about what they're seeing, where are they coming from in terms of their goals. How much information are they expecting in order to have this baseline? If they're like, well, we've just been getting a baseline out, how much information do they feel that they need in order for this baseline? You do have a lot of issues going on, and they may be of the mindset that they want to get the basis of everything out before they start addressing, particular issues. But if there are particular issues that are really critical for you, perhaps the information you've already given them would be enough to start focusing on what's most important to you, what's most critical. I don't know if this person is a trauma-informed therapist. If you can if not, I highly encourage you to find a trauma-informed therapist. They really understand the particular issues that trauma survivors deal with and how the effects can be different for different people, and what may be most important today may not be the most important tomorrow because our priorities in terms of what's going on with us can change based on triggering events. So I would ask them for, if they're a trauma informed therapist. And if they're not, if you still feel comfortable enough with them and you like you're saying you've been looking for somebody else and you can't find somebody that you can get into right away, definitely talk to them about priorities, about where they're coming from. And I encourage anyone who's thinking about going to a therapist to have an interview session with them, whether that's on the phone or whether it's in person, before you actually start your therapy work, because having a good fit with a therapist is absolutely critically important. This person, you're going to be divulging so much. You're going to be so vulnerable with this person, and you need to feel 100% comfortable with them. So, making sure that you're on the same page and that your goals line up, that their methodology in terms of how they are going to address these issues with you, that that's something that you're comfortable with, uh, are all extremely important. So, can't give you an answer as to a number of sessions, but have that conversation with your therapist. And if things don't line up, if they're not willing to kind of prioritize the issues in terms of what you need to deal with, then yeah, I would say it's probably time to be looking for somebody else. And if they're not a trauma informed therapist, maybe they can help you with some of the issues. They may not be your most critical issues, but if their way of attacking things, or attacking is kind of a strong word, if their way of addressing issues aligns with some of the things that you're looking for, perhaps you can use that person for those issues while you search for a trauma informed therapist. But Crystal says, have these conversations with therapists. Yep, absolutely. Dodger says, I like that my current therapist actually gives me advice. Oh my gosh, am I on board with you? The thing that would frustrate me the most is the therapists that say, I can't give you the answer to that. You need to find out yourself. That's why my job is just to guide you so that you can find the answer. And it's like, yeah, but I need help. Okay, it's taking me way too long to get there. We're just kind of, going over I'm obviously not, I mean, I had this conversation with the therapist actually. And I got to the point I was like, "Listen, this is just not gonna work because I'm not saying that you give me the answer and that is the answer, but giving me guidance, not just trying to guide my path so that I can find my own answer is really helpful because I was there because I was lost. And them trying to guide me find my own answer was absolutely not working. So, yeah, advice is advice, right? It's not saying it is the answer, but it's saying, hey, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try that? Or perhaps you need to consider X, Y, or Z. And to me, that is guidance. Advice is guidance. That wasn't the type of guidance this person was offering. Drove me absolutely bananas. Oh, absolutely. DeAudrey, I think we've spoken about this, that perimenopause is no joke. So I'm reminded this much how much hormones affect my mood. Going from the pill to HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and my mood hit rock bottom. Change one small thing and suddenly I'm okay again. Like I mentioned earlier, because my patch is HRT as well. And I realized that I have an alarm on my phone that reminds me every 3 days to change my patch. And I looked at it the other day and I said, okay, I'll do that the next time I get up and go to the bathroom, and totally forgot. And so when I was taking my morning meds this morning, I was looking at that box and went, huh, when's the last time I changed that little patch? No wonder I've been having funky dreams. No wonder I haven't been able to sleep well. No wonder I'm not quite having the night sweats because I've still got enough of the medication in my system, kind of residual, but definitely hotter. I slept on the couch last night because it was cooler, and it's certainly if you're female and if you've hit 40, I mean, they say perimenopause can start as early as 35. If you're 35 plus, definitely pay attention to your hormones, and what you eat, and the amount of exercise that you get, and talk to your medical doctor about changes that you think might be because of perimenopause. Hormones affect us so much, and it's in men and women. Men don't realize this, but they have hormones as well. Theirs mainly is testosterone, but they do have small amounts of estrogen. And when that's out of whack, that affects them as well as if their testosterone is out of whack. So they should be cognizant of it. So when talk about hormones, this is for men and women. All right. Looks like we've got time for one more. This is something that we don't talk a whole lot about. I've done a couple of lives on this subject, but I felt that it was good to bring it to the forefront and address this. So, Reddit submitter by the name of Ambassador Friendly 71 says, does anyone feel completely sex repulsed? Like trauma just ruined the sexual stuff for you? I'm going to go out on a limb and say this person probably has sexual abuse trauma in their past. Um, and that is the source of their issues with sex and things of a sexual nature. 100% that this can happen. This person is not alone in feeling this. In fact, uh, I've seen people who have been so traumatized by past sexual abuse that they've essentially become asexual. And there's a range, like there is with any sexual identity, um, with people who consider themselves asexual, from only wanting, friendship to people who want companionship, want somebody who would basically be acting like a partner, except there's no physicality. There are some people who like hugs or hand holding. There are some people who go as far as to saying, they like a kiss on the cheek. So those intimate moments that are less sexually charged. So there's a wide variety of people who identify as asexual as to the type of contact that they feel comfortable with, and that's where they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. Guys, our sexuality can change as we grow, as we age, as we experience different things, as we have traumas. There is nothing that says that the sexuality that you first identify with when you're younger has to be the same as it is when the day you die. For a lot of people, it is. Some people experiment with one thing and then go back to what they originally identified with. In my opinion, there's absolutely nothing wrong with ending up somewhere different. Trauma can affect our sexual identity immensely. And in this particular person's case, they're just repulsed by it. And that tells me you're at a place where you have not completely dealt with your sexual trauma. And like I said, it doesn't mean that, and I'm saying likely, because you could deal with your sexual trauma. You could be at peace with what happened, and yet you still feel repulsed by the ideas of sex. It changed you. That abuse changed you. And that's okay. There are people in the world who are like that. There are people in the world that you could still connect with on a partnership level, on a comfort level. But if it's something that you think that you want to change and that you want to be comfortable with sex again, or you want to explore that avenue, there are certainly ways that you can do that. Um, First and foremost, from the limited research that I have done in this area, is being comfortable with your own body and your own sexual reactions to yourself first before you invite another person into that mix. Because often people who are sexually abused, even our own sexual reactions to things can be triggering because they're a reminder of what we've been through. So one, there is just healing from your trauma in general, right? And going on that healing journey and being able to be at peace with what happened. But specifically in regards to the sexual realm, so one, being comfortable with your own body, which means you got to explore it. You need to, and there's no time limit, right? It's not like you explore your own body and you're expected to be comfortable with it and with your sexual expression within a month or within 6 months. It's different for everybody, but you have to be comfortable with yourself and your own sexual reactions before you can invite somebody else in. And then if you feel comfortable with that and you want to begin dating and exploring connection with somebody else, it's a conversation that you have to have with that person before you become intimate. And I would say earlier rather than later, but again, there's no timeline. You don't, so it's not something you have to bring up on your first date, but it is something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later and explaining to that person where you are. And that may be a tough sell, you know, there may be people who aren't willing to go at your pace. And your pace, you have to set that pace. And maybe kissing is the only thing that you can do for a while. Maybe it's just hand holding. And if they're not willing to do that, then that's not the right person for you at that time. And so letting them know where you're at, it, it takes a lot of communication. You have to be willing to talk about it and be comfortable talking about it with your potential partner, because they need to understand that if you go into something and you are doing something that's sexual or beginning to do something with sexual, if you have a particular reaction, that it's not them, it's your reaction. And they need to understand how they can support you in that moment. What should they do? So there's just a lot of talk, a lot of communication that needs to be done. But you're not abnormal for feeling repulsed. It's completely normal. Everyone reacts to trauma differently. There are connections between all of us. I think everybody who's gone through trauma has experienced, say, depression and anxiety at some point in time, hypervigilance. But there are so many different effects. Each of us aren't going to have all the same ones. But there are other people who have felt like you do. And there's nothing to say that you have to get to the point where you want sexual activity again. And so that's why, first and foremost, you need to deal with your sexual trauma and be more at peace with it. I don't have any other information other than what the person wrote, so I don't know where they are in their journey. But if they have come to peace with it and this is how they still feel, that's okay. There's still people out there who you could have a partnership with if that's something that you want. Um, because not everybody is not everybody wants sexual activity. So that is my response to this particular person on that subject. And I think it's something that we need to talk about. Crystal says true. Sexual abuse can and will change how you look at sex. Absolutely. You know, I will say for me personally, because it happened in my childhood and then throughout my childhood, for me, I looked at it as this was the way I got people to like me. And this is why some people can become very promiscuous. And it was really difficult for me because, on the one hand, I knew this is the one thing that I could give somebody that would get me attention because I was so lonely, I was so isolated that I wanted attention. I knew that this is one thing that would attract them. And yet, on the same time, I didn't want it. I didn't want to engage in sexual activity. And so I had this real push pull relationship with it as I was in my teens. And I didn't know really how to handle it. There was some guys who called me a dick tease because it was like, coming on and being one, and then I was like, stop. because I get to that point and it was like, wait a minute, this isn't what I want. What I wanted was the attention. I wanted somebody to like me for me. I wanted somebody to see me. And I didn't have social skills really to build lasting friendships. And it wasn't until, I got in college and really just focused on me and what I wanted that I came to peace with my sexuality. So, I know I'm always adding in things, personal stories. Hi, Judge. Hope you're doing well today. Last I knew you were on a fishing trip, but I think that was last weekend or the weekend before. But I hope you're doing well. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. Well, with that, that brings us to a little after 4. And I think that that is it. Oh, we can go to 4:30 if anybody's interested. Still got a few viewers here. Um, I'm going to read this one and I'm going to mention it quickly because it was something that we actually addressed with one of the other posts. But some commissions 7645 says, does anybody else get body jerks twitches? I've noticed this becoming more frequent as I've got older, but I often get these what I call anxiety twitches, but they're more like body jerks. A little bit like you feel like when you get the shivers. They usually happen when I get an intrusive worry thought, usually trauma related, I'm realizing, or when somebody says something that gives me this jolt of anxiety. It's the jolt of anxiety followed by the involuntary body jerk, although they're essentially happening at the same time. The worse my stress levels are, the more they happen. But they're definitely triggered. Anyone else? Absolutely. 100%. As we spoke about before, stress can manifest in physical ways. Um, I would actually get these leg jerks. It was my right leg, and it would just kick out. It was really weird. And it was really bad for a number of years, probably for about 3 years. And worse at night, when I first laid down. And it wasn't restless leg syndrome. It was definitely related to my anxiety because when I first laid down, that's when all the thoughts of the day and all the thoughts of tomorrow and everything starts crashing in your head as you're trying to calm yourself and quiet your mind in order to get to sleep, that I would notice it the most. But it would certainly happen during the day and absolutely in times of stress. So, yep, definitely you are not alone with that. And that answered the question, but I would also add then that doing anything you can to calm your nervous system, uh, especially, I'm going to go back to this, um, especially breathing exercises. Uh, when you have physical manifestations like that, breathing exercises, and there's lots of different kinds and different ones that you can try out. Box breathing and inhaling is shorter, exhaling longer. And they're a real quick way to calm your nervous system. And the calmer your nervous system is, the less twinges and twitches that you're going to have. So I encourage you to find some grounding techniques that work for you and keep doing them, throughout the day. As we say, we can't just pull out our tools when we're feeling bad. We need to pull these tools out when we're feeling good too, because especially I find with breathing exercises that if I do them, say I lose focus for a moment and I do the breathing exercises, I'm really heading off something worse. And so doing them at a time when we feel okay, our nervous system may already have been on the way up. And so by doing them on a regular basis, we can keep ourselves at that baseline, keep ourselves in a calm state throughout the day. So definitely pull them out when you don't. And this is a possibility. The judge says the body twitch is normal. However, if they persist with activity, it could be a neurological issue. You certainly want to get yourself checked out by a doctor, right? I mean, if they find that there's not an issue with, with you, there's nothing physical that they can find, no medical reason as to why you're having this in their mind, um, then most likely related to stress and anxiety. It sounds like you already know that there's that connection though. So um, it seems like this person isn't worried from a medical standpoint. You were pre-med before you switched to engineering, Judge? Oh, cool. I want to learn more about the nerve pressure points. I've been thinking more and more about getting back into martial arts and self-defense, and I really want to learn Krav Maga, which is the Israeli self-defense program. But right now I bruise too easily. I'd be a walking bruise if I did if I did it. This last one, this is where I want to leave you guys. 2 years of med school, decided, well, I'm glad you decided it wasn't for you. I hate it when there's people, they do it just because the family expects them to do it and they're absolutely miserable. Um, do what you like. Find something you love. It's the only way you're gonna make it, you know, through the day. All right. This one is more of a, there is no one particular answer to it because No Summer 1874 asks, what does healing mean to you? What do you want most for yourself? They say, I can go first. I want to feel whole, not like a loose set of disconnected experiences. I want the opposite of a disrupted sense of self, integrated, solid, at peace in my skin. I want to feel at ease. I want to freely express who I am. I want to feel effortlessly authentic. I want to laugh easily. I want more life experiences. I want the feeling that I have a rich life. And I have to say ditto because everything that this person expressed is certainly what I feel. And I will add from my sense, one of the things I get stuck in freeze mode with that paralysis. That's kind of my go-to when I'm overwhelmed and I'm shut down. And that is one of the biggest things that I want to not have in my life anymore. I want to wake up feeling energized and that I can be productive and to be productive during the day. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to take downtime because we have to have self-care time. But I want to eliminate those those freezes. And if I have them every now and again, I'll accept that, but definitely on a lesser basis. And I'll add that I would like to have somebody to share my life with. I've been working on myself a lot and being accepting of who I am and where I am. And I've come to the point that, at first I thought I needed to be totally healed, right? Before I invited somebody else into my life. But I am a firm believer that there's someone for everyone if companionship is what you're after. And not everybody needs that type of companionship. My brother is a lifelong bachelor, and according to him, he's happy as a clam. He's got his core group of friends that he does stuff with every week, multiple times a week, and he's got his support system, and he's okay with it. He's made peace with, not having somebody else in his life, and he's good. And that's fine for him. I myself, I would like to have a partner. I'd like to have a companion. I'd like to have somebody that, I wake up and we make breakfast together, or, who gives me that encouraging hug at the end of the day or whatever. I miss that. And I also realized that I don't need to be completely healed, meaning my worst is over, in order to have somebody else in my life. But they need to understand what they're getting into. They need to understand where my deficits are, where my shortcomings are, the problems that I struggle with. And I think that there's somebody who out there who would be willing to take that on, because they just need to be supportive and accepting of who I am, and where I am in life. So I like that as well. Crystal says, healing for me looks like having energy to get through a day and not always having to push myself to think and understand things, as it seems to be getting worse as well. And I understand that sentiment 100%. And I just want to encourage you to keep trying to put one step in front of the other. I know you're taking it day by day, and to give yourself grace and understand that you will be moving forward again. I know you feel like you're moving backwards right now, but you will be moving forward again. I know that healing is not linear, but sometimes it just helps for somebody to say it, and to say that you're courageous and strong, because you're making it through each day right now. And at one point, it will turn around. So keep going and reach out if you need. Just as I've been single 11 years and no desire to get into a relationship, what I learned with the dating is I don't have to be in a relationship to be happy. I have zero negative energy in my life. And that's perfectly fine. I've been single. I got divorced in 2001, and then I did have a long-term relationship somewhat after that. So, yeah, it's been about 11, 12 years for me that I've dated the last few years, but I haven't had a significant relationship. One or two dates or a handful at most, and that's been kind of it. And yeah, I don't need somebody in my life to be happy, but I do realize that I'm happier sharing. And I think that's why doing this channel, um, I don't want to do one-on-one therapy, but you know, doing a class, or getting on the speaking circuit, doing talks, teaching, um, sharing in that way, being able to share knowledge, uh, is very satisfying to me. And to have someone in my life to share all that with, um, I know that I am just one of those people who I seem to be my best when I'm with somebody else. I don't know. Um, there's just something about it that pushes me to be even better. And maybe it's because there's somebody there supporting me. Um, I don't know, but it's something I would like in my life. If it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. You know, I've been, well, I've had my son, but in terms of having a partner, I've been alone this long, and I'm okay. And I've still got more work to do on myself. So And I've also come to the realization that I the best things in my life, the relationships that I have that are the most positive have come in ways that I've least expected it. So for me, like actively dating seems to defeat the purpose. Not defeat the purpose, but it's like if somebody's going to come in my life, it's going to be because I bumped into them like literally in the coffee shop and spilled coffee all over them or something like that. It's not going to be because I was on Hinge or Bumble or any of these other dating sites. It's because I just ran into somebody and they just kind of dropped into my life and something started that way. So I'm not looking. So I'm not actively dating at this point in time. I got what you mean. Just as I like the quiet, sitting on my porch watching birds without talking is the best. And I agree. I agree. What I want out of a relationship has certainly changed. And I will say that was one thing that the dating did do for me is it really solidified for me what I wanted. Because I knew not dating for so long, um, I was in a totally different place in my life. And it really helped to identify those things that I was not willing to accept. Whereas before I might have been like, okay, well, that's a quirk or whatever, if you really care about somebody, you're willing to accept it. And that's true. But there's certain things that are just kind of no-goes for me, right? And dating definitely identified them for me and really helped me with my boundary setting so that I know that if I'm getting into a relationship, if that person does drop in my lap, um, I, I can say where my no-goes are and we can kind of, see how that changed. Before I was, it'd be talk, 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 but having to be with just me, especially these last couple of years, my son's got his own life and he's rarely here. When he is, he's, doing his own thing. So I definitely have come to appreciate the quiet and I'm comfortable um, with having those quiet times. But just sitting with somebody and even when David comes over, we'll be on the porch and we'll just be sitting with our drinks and just watching the sunset and just chilling and it's peaceful, very peaceful. So I totally get where you are. Um Listen, on a last little note, I am still I've got 1 month and only 500 more dollars that I'm trying to raise for the book launch. If you can repost uh, any of my donation sites on any of your social medias, that would be greatly appreciated. Just trying to get the word out. It's only $500. It's the last little bit that I need for the hotel. I have reserved it, but obviously going to have to pay for it when I get there. So I've got 1 month and just every little bit would help. So anybody that you can reach out to who could potentially donate would be awesome. You can find these my PayPal, my Cash App, the GoFundMe are all in my every video description, but I also have a community post about the book launch, particularly when I was doing the fundraiser, which just gives information about the book launch. So if you wanted, you could just copy all of that and repost it, and that just tells why I'm doing this, and um, that you can mention that I've just got $500. That's it. That's it. That's it. So we're at the last little stretch. So I just wanted to mention that. Really excited. But it looks like I may have an extra day in Vancouver. I may have some time on the 7th. I'm not flying out until the 8th. So if anybody knows anybody in the Vancouver area who would be interested in meeting up to look at sites and to just kind of tool around the city a little bit for a day, I looks like I'm going to have some free time. So love to meet anybody who is in the area. I don't know of any of you guys who I've met on any of the sites that uh, YouTube sites that I go to who are in that area. I think Osada is the closest one, and he's in Washington, and it's a multiple hour drive for him, so he's not quite close enough. I did meet one person, but I couldn't find any contact information for him on his site, so uh, through Jamie and down the road, but just FYI, guys, I'm gonna have, looks like I'm gonna have some free time, but Janet's gonna give me some information and some places to go, and I'm gonna have a little bit of time on the 5th before events start because I'm gonna get there early, and I think I can't check into my hotel until the afternoon. So I'm gonna just look at the sites and everything that are around in downtown Vancouver on the 5th, and then I might have a little bit of time on the 7th as well. So I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited to meet Janet in person. We actually have not been able to meet up in person. Carry On, you guys may know her by her handle, Carry On. And so yeah, flying out on the 31st. So just over a month. I can't believe that this is happening, right? And this is coming true. So uh, I will do what I can in terms of filming from there. Um, the 5th is a Wednesday, and that's the day that I'm checking into my hotel. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do a live that night, but I will definitely keep you guys posted if I'm going to have to skip that. But um, I may be able to just do a quick live and just be like, hey, I'm here, and just talk to you guys from Vancouver. So we'll see. All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up today. We've been on an hour and a half already. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's input for these Reddits. I think that it's a good way to bring out a lot of different topics and to address issues that are obviously important for some people. And you guys always have some great input with it as well. So let me know in the comments if you're watching on replay. If you could comment, even if it's to just replay, but let me know, was there a particular story that spoke to you? And I will say, here's your to do for the comments. What does healing mean to you? What do you want? What does being towards that end of the recovery road look like for you? Let me know. Be interested to hear from all of you. So with that, take care, guys. I will see you on Wednesday, October 1st. And we will have a huge celebration because we will be celebrating DeAudre's new job, right? I feel it. Let's send her all the love. Let's send her all the good juju and prayers for landing that job. And hopefully she'll be able to tell us on Wednesday that it was a go. So we'll see. All right. With that, remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So, hugs and love from me. See you on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, guys. Surviving together, never alone. Bye.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain, but we stand, we rise again, stronger now, we break the chain, surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. We see you, we hear